Welcome to The Glass Box, a podcast for revolutionaries to share their voices and causes. Here, we cover a range of topics and explore the limitations that hold us back, from personal challenges to societal issues, all with the intention to create an impact that ripples out and changes the world. Today, I'm joined by Chandler J to talk about the importance of branding, trademarking, and breaking out of the traditional legal mold. She shares her journey of carving her own path and inspiring others to be authentic and true to themselves. Without further ado, let's dive in. Chandler J is the sought-after attorney, intellectual property educator, and visionary behind Lethal Legal. What if your brand wasn't just a superficial layer of your business, but the most lucrative asset you have available to you as an entrepreneur? Chandler is a fierce intellectual property attorney and educator for businesses looking to leverage their brand to build an empire of wealth, recognition, and industry dominance. As the visionary behind the cutthroat law firm Lethal Legal, Chandler helps entrepreneurs and creators eliminate confusion around protecting their brand so they can boldly stake a claim for the legacy they want to leave behind. Yes, Chandler is the go-to expert for safeguarding your intellectual property, but she's also a passionate advocate of entrepreneurs breaking out of the box in order to bring their vision to life. Business is a battlefield, and Chandler is here to help you become a high-caliber CEO by learning to navigate the legal side of entrepreneurship with unshakable confidence and a rock-solid legal backbone.
Period.
Just like, yes, snap, snap, like such a bio. Like, damn, I love it.
It's so lined too. I feel like it encompasses what I do and me. So it flows. Yeah.
It does. And it's like, you don't read bios like that for lawyers very often. And oftentimes when you do, it's like, yeah, but are you really? And it's like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Really. So
I do fit that. Exactly. No, I know. Most attorneys have this bio. It's like, I went to law school and this, and I, have lived here for this many years, and I'm part of this society and this one. And I'm like, actually, no one cares. Like, no one I've worked with has ever asked for any of those things.
right. Like it's
No.
amazing how we have this idea that like you have to go to the top law school to be a badass lawyer. And it's like,
No, not yeah, and not even that, but it's just like people want to. I feel like you read the bio, like my bio, for example, and it conveys a little bit about who I am or my style or my vibe. And I feel like if you're just reading, like, if I just listed off my accomplishments, you're like, cool, you're accomplished. And what? You know what I mean? Like, good for you. But I want to know that I feel like, especially with law, in my opinion, working with brands, it's so relationship based. It's like more relational than it is transactional. Like criminal law, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It just, I also think it depends on the style of the attorney too. But I never want my clients to feel like something's just purely transactional. So it's like the style that I bring and the message that I want to convey is that it's like, I want you to equally vibe with me as well. It's
right.
important to care those things. Yeah.
Which like, I mean, speaking as someone, you are my lawyer. And like a year ago, if I would have said, oh yeah, I have a lawyer, like I would have pictured a stuffy, like white guy,
Yes.
like in a
Yes.
high collared suit that like just, ugh. But no, I'm
I
like,
know.
no, my lawyer is out there changing the fucking world. Like, look at her. I love it.
Yeah. And what I saw so much in the legal industry too is that you, first of all, I will tell you what, I don't have a lot of patience. Like that is my one downfall is I'm not a very patient person. And so when I set appointments, I'm a timely person too. I should say that. I don't expect things that I don't reciprocate, and I'm a timely person. So if I set up a doctor's appointment at a specific time, I want to be seen at that specific time. So when people are setting up appointments with lawyers at a specific time, I'm working with other businesses and brands. So I'm like, I respect your schedule because you're also a busy person. And I just found that so many people don't want to go into a lawyer's office and have to sit there and twiddle their thumbs and wait for 20 to 30 minutes before they're even being seen. And sometimes I'm like, were you actually like doing something like that you couldn't stop? Or is it just kind of like a weird power play, And I'm not into that. So yeah, it's, we can work with people virtually, which is great and on time, timely, which I
Yeah.
think is huge.
Like
Mm-hmm.
time is money. It's like,
Yeah.
that's what it is at this point.
And I feel like if you want people to respect your time, you also have to respect other people's time. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. That's a whole nother tangent, but
Love it. So with you getting into law,
yeah,
I like to dive into the background of how you get to this point because,
yeah,
oftentimes you don't get to where you are just straight out the gate, especially in an industry that is very structured and rigid and patriarchal.
yes,
How have you
yes.
broken out of that
100%.
box?
So when I was in law school, even going to law school, I felt like I don't fit in. I feel like I'm a little different. I just didn't feel like I fit that specific mold. And that was challenging for a while because it's almost like it's what people would judge me for, like you're not conforming. And I remember when I was in law school, I remember getting all these outfits and I'm like, this is what an attorney would wear. And then when I stepped into just me and my style of everything, I'm like, fuck all these clothes. I'm throwing them away because I'm like, this is not something I would wear. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel confident. I don't feel my best self. And so I decided that part of it was the industry, but part of it I think can also be where you're located. I'm originally from Iowa. And so in Iowa, people aren't like tatted the way I am, or everyone's just a little they just didn't have the same vision, I should say. And so I was like, I am leaving right away, expeditiously. So I got up and I moved everything to Arizona. And I moved to Arizona with like $2,000 to my name, and I had no job. And I also had taken the bar in Iowa. So the way the law works is Arizona and Iowa were both part of the UBE, which is called the Uniform Bar Exam. So that means if I get a high enough score for what each state requires, then I don't have to take the bar in an additional state. That's great, but you still have to go through the process of, did I even pass here? And then you have to go through the process of applying in Arizona. So good news is I passed in Arizona. I got a high enough score that also passed in Arizona, but then I had to transfer everything and apply to be admitted to the Arizona bar. It's a whole process. So, I mean, it was like 6 months before it was at least 6 months before I was even practicing law. And I was just kind of twiddling my thumbs. I was like, I'm a licensed attorney, but and at this point, I didn't know I wanted to do the work I do now. So if I did, I could have gotten into it because it's all federal, doesn't matter where you're licensed, etc. But at the time, I didn't know. And so I thought I wanted to go into criminal law. And I was bouncing around with my attorney friend and mentor who practices criminal law. And it was a lot of fun, but I was like, this sucks. This is terrible. I'm hungry. We have not stopped all day long, even for a lunch break. I am not made for this life. Okay. Like, it just sounds like hell. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you're in court all day. So you're tied to a courtroom. You're tied to Arizona. You may have the money freedom because great, you make good money, but you don't have the location freedom and you don't have the time freedom. Right. So I was like, no, that actually sucks because I want all three. And I refuse to settle for anything but all three. And so I was getting job offers from these firms for like personal injury and stuff like that. And they were like, you can work here. We'll offer you a salary of $60,000 a year, and you'll be working like 12 hours a day. But we're gonna give you a gym membership, and I know. I was like, when am I going to have time to utilize a gym membership if I'm working 12 hours a day? I don't know. On top of that,
Memberships are like $9 a month. It's not
no, literally, I'm like, oh, thanks. And then they're like, after 2 years, not 2 years. It was 5 years, actually. It was after 5 years, we'll pay for you to go on a 2-week vacation.
No.
And I'm just like, this can't be my reality. Like this, I refuse to accept it. I was like, this cannot be the reality. You get out of law school, you have hundreds of $1,000s in debt from just going to law school and being an attorney, and they want to offer you, I could have made $60,000 coming out of college or with no college degree, like even, and it's just, it was crazy to me. And I'm like, I cannot do this. I refuse to believe that this is the only way. And that's how I fell into IP work in intellectual property law, because you, number one, you don't have a cap, right? Like you can serve as many people as you want, especially if you have your own firm. Number two, it is not based on location, it is federal. So I can not only live wherever I want and travel wherever I want, but I can also work with people who are all over, not just in one state.
Right.
And then number three, time. So I don't have to go to court and deal with these court appearances that are unmovable or not changeable. It's, paperless. It's everything is done through filings and stuff like that. So it was just kind of the perfect storm of everything falling into my lap all at once. And then when I started, I think the reason I kind of broke out of the box is I was so hell bent on not being the typical attorney. And I remember when I was starting and the things I was doing and the things I was saying and how I was putting myself out there, and people were just like, Chandler, what are you doing? Like, this is not a good idea. And I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, I already am jobless. So if I fail, I'm not really falling anywhere because I already don't have a job. So I'm going to, there's a certain level of, I was fairly out there, and I stand by this. All attention is good attention. Okay. All attention is good attention. It depends on how you use it. And so I think you capture attention and then you utilize it in a way that helps benefit you and other people. And I think I've toned down a little bit. I'm still badass, but I've toned down a little bit on socials. I used to be like so vocal about everything. But it worked. It drew in a massive community of people who were just aligned, right? And it stimulated these amazing conversations. And what I believe to be so true, I just posted this on my stories the other day too, is what you think is your weakness and what everyone told me was my biggest weakness is you're so out there, you're not like a normal attorney, or you're cussing, or you have tattoos, or you have red hair, whatever it is. It's like all of those things were my superpower. They weren't my weakness. They weren't my downfall. They are what connected me to other people. They're what made me relatable. They're what people wanted to see. And I even see it in other people. People will say stuff that I'm like, I don't agree with a single word you said, but I love that you just said it. Like, I love that you put yourself out there. I love that you have an opinion, even if I don't agree with your opinion, unless it's wrong, like blatantly like about legal or something, not even like just an opinion, but if it's like an opinion that's legit wrong, then I have a problem. But I mean, if it's just someone putting themselves out there and they're sharing something, even if I don't necessarily agree, I find it so admirable that people are putting themselves out there. They're staying true to themselves. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, that's like you said, when you're being true to yourself and you're being relatable and authentic, like that is when you're going to bring in those clients that are going to get you like where you're actually wanting to go.
100%.
Settling just for like a paycheck.
100%. Because you want to work with people who want to work with you too, and who are aligned and aren't just, there's a disconnect, I feel like, when you're not relating with people on any of those aspects.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love seeing how because you're redoing your highlights on Instagram right now.
Yeah.
And I was reading through them and I'm like, she's a boxer? She tattooed people?
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, tell me more.
Oh yeah, that was a whole thing. So I was a boxing coach. I loved it. I've been a kickboxing coach, been a boxing instructor, certified. It's amazing. I love it. And I just have shoulder issues, so I couldn't continue. And then I was moving, but it was an absolute blast. And that's why I always say, like, I'm really the bodyguard for your brand because I know how to box too, right? So I protect your brand, but I'll literally fight people off. Hypothetically, I don't want to get into any physical altercations, but yeah, boxing coach. And then some of it's my Gemini energy, and it's also my energy of just, I think that you have to follow paths that light you up. And if there's a spark, I think that you owe yourself a duty to explore that, because we don't get those sparks every day, right? So if there's a little inkling or a little nudge, I say go for it and explore it, because you don't know where it's going to lead you. So I had that same spark with tattooing. And I was like, oh, there was an opportunity to learn how to tattoo. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm taking it and I'm doing it. So I learned how to tattoo. And when I tell you, that opened just like the craziest door for me, because I started posting about it. I went entirely viral on TikTok, and it was around the time Roe versus Wade got overturned. So I was doing women's rights tattoos, and I also think aligned action is just everything. So I mean, I got this idea and I put it together within 24 hours. I was like, I'm going to host an event. I'm going to host a whole event. We're going to donate all the proceeds. Like, it's going to be great. I got other artists in on it. I got the whole shop in on it. I put together these like thank you gifts and like all this stuff. And I was exhausted that day, but we were able to donate so much money, which was really cool. So many people were, flew in. I had people flying in. That was the craziest thing. People were flying in, and I was like, oh, like, how are you doing? How's your day? And they're like, oh, good. I just got off the plane. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, what are you here for? And they're like, to get tattooed. And I'm like, what? Yeah, they flew in to come get tattooed, and then we're getting on a plane to fly back right after. And I'm just like, that was the most surreal experience.
Right.
It was just, it was so cool and so crazy, and it felt like it was part of something bigger. And so it was so beautiful to see so many people kind of come together for a cause. And it was neat. It was such an incredible experience. So I still love tattooing, but I moved, so I stopped doing it because I moved to California for a while. But
would you start again?
I would. Logistically, I don't know if now's the time because I'm about to have a baby. So it's like, logistic wise, I don't think, I'm gonna be able to do it right now. I'm like, I can't barely even bend over. But the ultimate goal was, it was crazy because before I moved to California, I always believed that if one door closes, another door opens, and everything happens for a reason. So I now I see why I moved to California, why I was in Texas, why I'm here now, back in Arizona. But before I had moved to California, I was planning on getting a place. There was a whole place I was going to buy, renovate completely. It was going to be the coolest tattoo studio ever. I was so hyped up about it. And last minute, before everything was about to go through, they decided they didn't want a tattoo studio in that location. And I'm like, okay, then I'm moving to California. So it's like one or the other. And this is the route we took. So I took this route instead because that route kind of closed for me, I guess. Because that was the next step, was opening up a whole shop. Right. And it's cool because I think about what would life look like had that have happened. I don't know. But I know, what life looked like when I moved to California, and I moved, so it's just different things, different experiences.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to reflect on that, because so many people I've been having conversations with lately are reflecting on things where it's like, okay, that vision that I had, that I was so sure of exactly what I wanted, it didn't work out. But it led me to this random other thing over here that like is bringing in so many opportunities that you never even dream of.
100%. 100%. So you never know. Yeah. When one door closes, another one opens, and you'll never know sometimes what that other door would have looked like. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? Because this is where we are. Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice do you have for people who need to stay in the moment when they are like navigating those kind of journeys?
I think in hindsight, it's kind of hard. Or I think it's hard, but in hindsight, you look back and you're able to have more awareness about it when you're sitting back and you're reflecting on the journey and on everything that's kind of transpired. Um, in the moment, I think I'm such a shift gears type of person. So if something is, if I see something's not happening, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to shift gears instantly. And uh, that's kind of what happened. Just staying the course and continuing to make moves, whatever that might look like, and being decisive about that. And when you make a choice, you have to go forward with it full force. Um, the other thing is I say is and I applied this when I went to law school. I applied this when starting my firm. I applied this in everything. I just don't believe in plan B. Like there's no plan B, right? There's only plan A. And you just have to go forward knowing that plan A is going to work out. Everything's going to work out. I mean, if you look at, I've had moments where I'm like, oh no, like where you feel unsafe or you have those feelings of unsafety, you have those feelings that something isn't going to work out. But the question is, what evidence do you have that something's not going to work out?
Right.
Like when you look back on the course of events in life, when is something not just kind of worked itself out? Everything tends to work itself out somehow, some way. It might not always be great, it might not always be easy, but hindsight's always 2020. Things tend to kind of smooth out themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's important, like in those situations, to just trusting that process and that it may not be easy, it may not be smooth. It also may not happen in the time frame that you're expecting it to.
Right.
So just
Right.
like you said, trust that plan A is going to
Yeah.
work out, even if it is down the road.
100%.
But,
Yeah.
so I want to talk a bit about branding and like IP, because I feel like, I left my corporate job last summer, and I'm seeing so many women especially doing that who don't understand like the legal side of business,
Yeah.
and they don't realize how important it is to actually trademark things. So what's your advice around that?
Well, first of all, it's that you just don't own anything unless you trademark it. So just because you start it, just because you create it, just because you build it doesn't mean you own it. The only way that you can officially own it and own what you're doing and what you're building is by trademarking it. I don't like leading with the fear type of things, which are real consequences. I do see all the time, and so I walk a fine line between I always want to educate on these things, but I'm not trying to fearmonger people or be like that attorney that's like telling you about the bad stuff can happen. It does happen. It's stuff I do see happen, so I feel like it's important to educate on it, but it's not. I don't want people to make decisions motivated from a place of fear, if that makes sense. So from that side of things, what can happen is if you're building a brand and you're not running the proper checks to make sure that you can even own the brand name, then there's a chance that one, you'll never be able to, two, people will copy you and steal everything you do. But I think three is kind of the scariest thing, and that's if you're building a brand that someone else already owns or already has, then you can deal with so many legal issues, right? So people can come in, they can send you a cease and desist, they can sue you, they can disgorge you of all the profits you've made using that term. So if you've been in business for 1 year and you've been using this brand name for 1 year, and that 1 year mark hits and someone comes and says, oh yeah, by the way, you owe us everything that you've made using this infringing term, because you have been using this term, which is capitalizing off of our reputation and our goodwill that we have built. Therefore, those profits don't belong to you, they belong to us. those situations happen. It's scary. I don't want that. I don't want people put in that position. On the flip side of it, when you do own your IP, it allows you to leverage it so that if people are copying you, number one, you have a right to say something to them to get them to stop. But then number two, you can say, hey, you can't continue to capitalize off of my brand, pay me, like if you pay me essentially. Then there's settlement deals and stuff like that. So there's ways that you end up getting a monetary award when people do copy you. And I don't say if people copy you, I always say when, because it's a matter of time, right? People are going to copy people. It's one of those things where I always say, like, there's only so many ideas in this world. There's only so many things, ways to say stuff, etc. And I always tell people, like, you're not that creative. Like, you're creative in a non-offensive way. Like, you're not that creative, because if you think it's a good idea, chances are someone else is going to think it's a good idea, right? So you want to make sure that you're smart about it and you take the steps to secure rights to that idea and protect what you're building, so then you can move forward confidently with your peace of mind intact and knowing no one can mess with you, and knowing you are legally protected and legally sound. The world of IP, I think people tend to get a little bit confused because of the fact it's not as tangible, right? So I think when people are working with designers and they want to invest in the design first, and they want to invest in their logos, and they want to invest in all this stuff, because to be honest, it's more fun. And I concur with you, it is more fun. Okay. And you get more of a visual representation when you see all this stuff come to life. And so you feel like you're, in essence, like getting something. There's like a sense of immediate gratification there. Well, after like an 8-week project period, whatever it is, you're getting something physical. Whereas with IP, you're getting a registration certificate, right? But it's the power that that registration certificate holds. So it's very similar to people who, I always say intellectual property is like real property. So you own land, you own a home, right? You're not just going to go start building a house on land that you don't own. You have, similar to a brand, like you have to make sure that you can even own this land before you start building your brand on it. Because if you start building a brand on land that you don't own, someone's going to come in and knock that house down.
Right.
Someone's going to come in and take it over. Someone's going to come in and steal. Someone's going to come over and say, actually, it's mine. So thank you for doing all the hard work, but now I'm going to live in it. It's similar to being like, okay, now you have to pay me all the profits you've made. So there's kind of a lot of different sides to it. But I think it's one of those where people don't necessarily view it as necessary as I wished people did, based on the fact that it's like, again, it's just the shit show that we see on the back end of things, and we can't always come out and talk about these situations because of attorney-client privilege. So I can't even come out and say, like, oh, this happened with this brand, or this, I can't even come out and use these things as examples. But it's just, it's scary, this stuff that attorneys see.
Yeah. I mean, even this is super helpful, because I think a lot of people are very much like me, where it's so much information and there's so much jargon, and I know that I could understand it, but to get to the knowledge in that and what you actually need to know, it's like it takes so fucking long. And you don't know what is actually legitimate or what's just filler words. So because of that, then people don't go ahead and, submit the application.
Yep. Yep. It can be confusing. And the other thing is, at least I try to, I know a lot of attorneys can kind of talk over people. I never want to do that. So I was trying to break things down in a way that people understand. There's no award for using fancy words. You sometimes just sound like an asshole. You know what I mean? There's no award for doing that. Like, no, I don't like when people talk to me like that, right? I mean, you think of something, for example, like my accountant or my financial advisor or whoever, like I am not someone who just break things down and tell me what I need to know, because it's almost like I'm paying you so I don't have to know all these things, right? Just like I need to do my taxes. I don't necessarily need to know all the ways that they get done, as long as they're getting done and I'm in line. So you make sure I'm in line and we'll call it a day.
Exactly. Like, make it stupid simple. Just
Yes.
please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. As we start getting to the end, what is the impact that you want to have in the world?
I think it's twofold. Of course, the legal side, I want to make sure I can protect as many brands as possible, right? Because it's setting these brands up for success, it's setting them up for more money, more protection, more strategy, all of that. But I think aside from the work that I do aspect of it, I think what gives me like the good feelings, I guess, inside is when people message me and they're like, you inspire me so much, like you're so badass, like I love that you've carved your own path. It's so cool seeing, you know, a lawyer doing things in such a different way. Things like that are what give me all the like feel good feelings inside, because I'm like, yeah, you don't have to fit into a box. That's what I've stood for from day one. You just because I have a professional title does not mean that I'm not human. And I think that a lot of people get so wrapped up in their titles. I am not my title. I am a human before I am my title. Right. And I want to work with someone that I can relate to too, and that I can talk to, and that I also feel like is a normal person who doesn't have a stick up their ass, quite frankly. And I feel like a lot of people, you know, well, they'll have these like specialized degrees or whatever it is. You think you're a hot shot and you're walking around with your stick up with a stick up your ass, and that's not cute. It's not like a cute look to anyone. You may think you look cool, but I think it comes off as arrogant, and so I never want to be that person, and I never want to lead with my title. I want people to feel inspired because it's like you're doing things your own way. You are a normal human at the end of the day. Like, yeah, you have a cool job. Yeah, you do this stuff. But at the end of the day, you're human, and I can tell that you're human and you're doing things differently. And it's inspired me. I think the best thing I've ever been told is that I inspire someone to be more themselves. And that's just like such a beautiful thing to hear.
I mean, honestly, that is like the glass box trademarking that was my second one with you. And the reason why I came back to you is for everything that you just said. Like, you are very inspiring. You are so grounded in who you are. And there's like this kind of gentle power to you, right? Where it's like the boxing thing. You're very comforting. You nurture your relationships with your clients, but you could knock someone the fuck out if you wanted to.
Yeah.
That is the person that I want on my team. And it's just the fact that you are like that, yes, in your profession, but it's you.
Yes.
We need more people like that. And I'm just so grateful that I found you, and like you have my back. So just yes. Happy for that.
Got you covered. No, it's so true. My friends always say all the time, like, it's so funny knowing you as a human, because you are also such a big teddy bear, right? Like I am a big teddy bear. I'm a nice person. And so I am a kind person, I should say. I do my best to be a kind person. And so it's, yes, I can be a shark when I need to be. I can be aggressive when I need to be, but I don't want to just live in that land all the time. Like, I'm happy, I'm smiley, I'm nice, I'm kind, you know. And so it's fun because I get to be that way with my clients, but then on the flip side, for my clients, I get to be that person that's like, absolutely not, right? And kind of put my foot down. So
Love it. Love it. It's like I feel like that's just the perfect end to that. So then where can people find you and how can they work with you?
Absolutely. They can find me on Instagram at Lawyer Chandler J, also on Threads at Lawyer Chandler J. And then my website is yourlethallegal.com, and they can find me there to work with me as well on getting their trademark secured.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chandler.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And that's it. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation on the Glass Box. If you'd like to reach out to either Chandler or myself, you can find our contact information in the show notes. And I will catch you next time. Bye.